The story begins in the northwestern region of the Clay Kingdom. Our protagonist, Norm, is busy making medicine for his sick mother. After drinking the medicine, she thanks him for always taking care of her. Norm tells her he needs to go feed the sheep now, and she makes him promise not to go outside the barrier. He assures her he won't. Norm mentions he will bring back some fruits and rabbit meat to make soup. His mother starts coughing, and worried, he says he'll boil some water for her. She stops him and wipes the dirt from her hardworking son's face. Apologetically, she says she's sorry for not being able to give him much and that he deserves to choose how he lives. The scene shifts to Norm at night, making soup with the rabbit meat and fruits he gathered. When it's done, he takes it to his mother and tries to wake her, but she doesn't respond. Devastated, he realizes she has passed away. He then makes a grave for her next to his father's grave and silently cries. After this heartbreaking event, Norm spends his days catching prey to eat, taking care of his cattle, organizing things in his house, and reading books. Each day passes in this routine, and he feels lonely when not occupied with work. One day, he finds an old book in his house. Upon reading it, he remembers it was the book his father used to read to him as a child. His father used to tell him about adventurers, sharing heroic tales that fascinated Norm. He learned that adventurers could lift curses haunting a forest, study magic to become powerful magicians, band together to take down colossal monsters, and even secure an all-curing elixir from the Spirit King. No matter the crisis, adventurers would fight to protect. The next day, Norm lays out large amounts of feed for his cattle and says his farewells to his mother and father at their graves. He tells them that he is going on his first trip to the city to become an adventurer. With a mix of excitement and hesitation, he leaves the protective barrier around his home. After spending several days traveling alone, he finally reaches the city. Upon entering the city, Norm asks the guards at the gate for directions to the Adventurers Guild. They point him in the right direction, and he makes his way through the bustling city, marveling at the unfamiliar sights. Everything excites him, as it's his first time experiencing city life. When he arrives at the Adventurers Guild, the guildmaster initially tries to shoo him away, saying it's no place for kids. Norm explains that the gatekeeper directed him there to become an adventurer. The guildmaster advises against such a dangerous path, suggesting his parents would worry about him. Norm somberly informs the guildmaster that both his parents are dead. Upon being asked for his name, he introduces himself as Norm. The guildmaster then tells Norm that if he wants to become an adventurer, he should start by attending a training school, though he warns that Norm might have trouble fitting in as the youngest candidate they've ever had. Curious, Norm asks what a training school is. The guildmaster explains that everyone who wants to join the Royal Capital's Adventurers Guild must attend a training school to choose an adventurer class and acquire useful skills like sword techniques and magic. This excites Norm, and the scene shifts to him at a swordsman training school. He dreams of becoming a hero who could slay a dragon the size of a mountain with a single strike. At the school, Norm trains diligently in swordsmanship. One by one, the other students begin to awaken their sword skills, while Norm continues to train, feeling envious of their progress. Several months later, all the other students have learned various sword skills, but Norm has not made much progress. Despite his efforts, his instructor advises him to stop training, suggesting he pursue a different path. Noah wants to continue training, but the instructor tells him it would just be a waste of time. He harshly calls Noah a talentless bum, noting that in all his time there, he has only learned to parry. The instructor suggests that Noah might be better off exploring other training schools to find his potential. Determined, Noah goes to the warrior school. He thinks being a warrior would be cool, as he could stand on the front lines and protect his allies. Despite going through grueling training, he makes no progress. After several months, his warrior instructor tells him to quit, noting that Noah has only managed to slightly enhance his physical strength. He warns Noah that continuing on this path will only lead to injury. Noah then tries the hunter training school but fails there as well. His instructor tells him he isn't cut out for handling delicate tools like bows. Next, he tries the magician training school, but after all his training, he can only cast a puny flame that struggles to light a candle. He then goes to the thieves training school. Despite training there for a while, he can't get the hang of disarming traps, picking locks, or detecting presences, and he has to quit this path as well. Finally, he tries the cleric training school, but after months of training, he only learns the spell Low Heal, which can barely treat scrapes. Disappointed, Noah returns to the guild. The guild master is surprised to learn that Noah couldn't master a single skill after months of training. The guild master tells him he doesn't have what it takes to be an adventurer. Feeling like a talentless loser, Noah leaves the city in disappointment. The scene shifts back to his house, where Noah tells his parents' graves that he has no talent for adventuring but refuses to give up. He decides to work harder than anyone else and crafts himself a wooden sword. He recalls his sword instructor's words. The one skill he has might evolve into something new if he keeps honing it. Determined, he trains his parry skill. Nohr spends his days and nights perfecting this one skill. A year passes, and Nohr has trained his parry skills to deflect 10 swords at once. He still hasn't developed any new skills, but feels he is making progress. 3 more years pass, and now Nohr can parry 100 swords at once, yet he still hasn't developed a new skill. Despite this, Nohr refuses to give up. He trains so hard that he even breaks his wooden sword and heals his scratches with his low heel skill. 10 more years pass, and now Nohr can parry 1,000 swords at once. He reflects that he hasn't missed a single day of training in the last 14 years, yet he still hasn't learned a single new skill. The next day, Nohr decides to head to the city once more, and the scene shifts to him at the Adventurers Guild. The guild staff checks his skills and notes that he has parry, physical enhancement, stone throw, feather step, tiny flame, and low heel. She questions if he is sure he wants to register with these seemingly unimpressive skills. She explains the training school system and its benefits, but he mentions that he has already studied under all of them. This leaves the girl unsure of what to say. Realizing he won't be able to join the guild, Nohr wonders if there is any way for him to achieve his dream. At this moment, the guild master arrives and struggles to recognize the grown-up Nohr. After taking a closer look, he recalls who Nohr is. Nohr explains what he has been doing all these years, and the guild master is astonished that all he managed to learn is a slightly improved version of parry. The guild master then explains that adventurers are ranked from S to E, from the strongest to the weakest. To register as an E-ranked adventurer, one needs at least one useful skill, which Nohr lacks. Feeling defeated, Nohr contemplates giving up on his dream, but the guild master reveals that there is a lesser-known rank below E. Excited, Nohr learns he can join the guild as an F-ranked adventurer. The guild master explains the conditions. Nohr won't be able to take hunting or gathering jobs outside the city and will only be allowed to do odd jobs within the city's borders. This rank was designed for beggars to earn some food. Surprisingly, Nohr agrees to join as an F-ranked adventurer. The guild master is taken aback but registers Nohr when he insists. Nohr is thrilled to see his adventurer card and begins taking on odd jobs around the city. He completes them one by one using his skills, however modest, while continuing his sword training. Days pass as he helps people throughout the city. One day, while sitting by a fire, he reflects on achieving his dream of becoming an adventurer who helps others, knowing he can't wish for more given his skills. He continues working odd jobs around the city. One day, Nohr helps an old woman clean her drains, and she appreciates his consistent help. He then works at a construction site. After finishing his work, he notices a light shining in a cave and hears cries for help. Rushing to the cave, he sees a minotaur about to kill a girl. The girl is protected by knights who are quickly overwhelmed by the powerful monster. The minotaur kills the knights with ease, leaving the area drenched in blood and the girl terrified. Nohr distracts the minotaur using his rock throw skill, drawing the monster's attention to himself. The minotaur chases Nohr and attacks, but Nohr manages to parry its strikes. As the minotaur continues its assault, Nohr's sword takes damage. He realizes he needs to find an opening, but also acknowledges his lack of offensive skills. Seeing the girl still in danger, he uses feather step and parry to save her, but this destroys his sword. He resolves to protect the girl, remembering his father's words about what it means to be an adventurer. The minotaur attacks again, and Nohr parries, causing the monster's axe to fly out of its hand and behead the minotaur. Nohr knows he would have died if the fight had continued much longer, and once again acknowledges his lack of talent. The girl thanks him for saving her life and asks for his name, but he tells her he is not worth remembering and leaves. Some knights arrive to rescue the girl, and we see Nohr back in town. He reflects on how he almost got killed by a random minotaur and resolves to train even harder. The scene shifts to butchers preparing to cut up the minotaur, while the girl Nohr saved thanks the soldiers who sacrificed their lives for her. A lady knight rushes into the cave, relieved to see the girl unharmed. She apologizes for not being there in her time of need, but the girl reassures her that it wasn't her fault. She explains that she was undergoing the rite of succession, and having the knight by her side would have rendered the rite meaningless, so she tells her to stop worrying. A soldier named Darchin then informs the girl, Lindbergh Cleese or Lin for short, that they should return to the castle to inform everyone about what happened. Later, we see Lin's brother learning about the minotaur that was summoned on the streets. He finds it odd, as minotaurs are high-level monsters found in the innermost depths of dungeons. He concludes that this was an assassination attempt, and Darchin agrees, revealing that they found a ring on a merchant's corpse at the scene. The ring appeared to be the catalyst, And when an old man named Okun, the spell sovereign, examined it, he found a mana stone of extremely high purity, which is rare in the market. Lin's brother knows that a ranked threat like a minotaur isn't something that can be summoned with money alone. Darchin informs him that, according to Okun, the traces of the spell pattern remaining on the mana stone likely originate from the magic empire of Doritus. Lin's brother suspected that Doritus was behind this, as they have been harassing them recently. He believes they crossed the line by restraining the princess and attacking her with a minotaur. Since the evidence wasn't hidden, he speculates that their goal must go beyond assassination. Lin's brother speculates that Doritus is provoking them into waging war, aiming to acquire the Dungeon of the Lost and the treasures within it. He then changes the topic, asking about the man who saved his sister. Considering that he slew a minotaur with only a broadsword and evaded the Shadow Company, he must be highly skilled. Darchin tells him that the man disappeared right in front of the Shadow Company while they were tailing him, leaving Lin's brother curious about his identity. The scene then shifts to Noor at the Adventurers Guild. The guild master is relieved to see him alive, explaining that a powerful monster appeared near the dungeon's entrance yesterday. Given that the disturbance occurred near the construction site where Noor was working, and he hadn't returned after work, the guild master feared the worst. Noor explains that a suspicious group was tailing him last night, and since he was tired, he went directly home. The guild master points out that Noor looks filthy, and Noor explains it's because he was cleaning the gutters earlier. The guild master tells Noor he was fortunate not to encounter the monster, emphasizing that even a former ranked adventurer like him wouldn't have stood a chance. Noor, surprised that such a powerful monster exists, is glad he only fought the cow, not realizing that the guild master is talking about the same creature. Curious, Noor asks what happened to the monster, and learns it was killed by a mysterious man in a single blow. This revelation makes Noor realize there are truly amazing people in the world. After the guild master pays him for his work, he advises Noor to find a proper job. Noor, confused, points out he is already working as an adventurer. The guild master explains that Noor would earn 30% more if not for the guild taking commissions, suggesting a normal job might be better for him. Lin then approaches Noor, having located him using a long-distance detection skill. Noor speculates she might be from the thief school, but Lin clarifies she specializes in the magician branch, possessing an equal number of skills in all 6 branches. Noor is impressed, but Lin downplays her abilities compared to his. Noticing they are drawing a lot of attention, Lin suggests they take the conversation outside. The guild master is surprised to see Noor talking casually with her, and secretly asks if Noor has done something wrong. Noor doesn't recall anything, and Lin uses concealment and soundproofing spells, asking him to follow her. Noor looks to the guild master for advice, who tells him to listen to her and not offend her. As they walk around town, they pass by soldiers searching for the person who defeated the Minotaur. But thanks to the concealment magic, they can't see or sense Noor. He wonders who they are looking for. They then head to a secluded place where Lin apologizes for interrupting his chat with the guild master. Noor reassures her it's fine and asks if she needs anything from him. She expresses her gratitude for saving her life, emphasizing that he not only saved her, but many citizens of the kingdom. Noor thinks she is exaggerating, believing her skills surpass his. He apologizes for interfering in her fight, but she insists he did nothing wrong, as she would be dead if not for him. He accepts her gratitude since she is so insistent. Lin wishes to repay him, but Noor is content with just her words of thanks. Lin, however, is not satisfied and insists he meets her father to accept a reward. Noor, having no intention of accepting anything beyond her gratitude, rejects all her attempts. Lin, tearful and insistent, says she won't budge until he agrees. This reminds Noor of himself as a child, when he stubbornly insisted on continuing his training despite his cleric school teacher's discouragement. Reluctantly, he agrees to see her father, but insists he won't accept any extravagant rewards. Lin asks him to follow her, casting concealment magic on both of them to avoid attracting attention, and leads him to her house. Noah is surprised to see how grand her house is. They walk right in without the guards noticing. Lin then remembers she hasn't asked Noah's name, and he introduces himself, asking for her name in return. She is embarrassed for forgetting to introduce herself earlier and makes her introduction. As they continue through the grand house, Noah realizes Lin must be a wealthy noble. This understanding clarifies why the guild master advised him not to offend her. They soon encounter the Lady Knight from earlier. Lin asks the Lady Knight where her father is, and she informs Lin that he is in the audience chamber speaking to her brother. When the knight inquires about the man behind her, Lin explains that he is the one who saved her recently. Noah, mistaking the knight for a maid, is surprised she can do laundry and housework in her outfit. The knight glares at him, making Noah realize she is very cautious. She then leads them to the audience chamber, and on the way, they encounter a warrior. He asks where they are headed at this hour and who the unknown man is. The Lady Knight admonishes him to show respect to Lin's guest, revealing he is the man who saved her. Though the warrior doubts Noah's strength, the knight insists on respect and requests the warrior join them in case extra muscle is needed. He agrees, and they continue on. Meanwhile, in the audience chamber, Lin's father and brother discuss that Derrida has broken the non-aggression pact and made their demands clear. Earlier, they had a meeting with Derrida's representatives, where their king demanded rights to the dungeon and military support. Lin's father was appalled by the one-sided negotiation and refused their terms, considering it might be time for war with Derrida. Just then, Lin and the others enter the audience chamber. Lin's brother is furious she used the cloak of the hermit, but she explains it was necessary to find her savior. Her father realizes the man with her is the one who saved her. Noah apologizes for his unpresentable appearance, but Lin's father tells him it's fine. Noah declares he might lack proper manners and could unintentionally be rude, but the old man reassures him. He shakes Noah's hand, thanking him for saving his daughter. Noah thinks he can leave now, but the old man insists on rewarding him. He offers Noah anything he desires, be it land or wealth, but Noah declines. The old man then offers half of the dungeon treasures, but Noah has no interest in this either. Despite the old man's insistence, Noah refuses grand rewards. Eventually, the old man offers his old sword, explaining that he no longer needs it since retiring from the front lines. He plans to replace it with a replica, and Noah, finding the sword heavier than expected, wonders if it is important. The old man downplays its significance, calling it a second-hand item from his travels. Noah accepts it, and the old man asks him to try it out. Using physical enhancement, Noah swings the sword with all his might, creating a gust of wind in the room. He finds it heavy but manageable. Amused, the old man requests Noah to give Lin some training. Lin is excited, but Noah insists he lacks the qualifications to teach her. He believes Lin should decide her own path without her father meddling too much. The old man agrees, and Noah takes his leave. On his way out, Noah thinks the sword's weight will make it perfect for training. He also notices the sword's width matches the city drains, thinking it will make cleaning them more efficient. He plans to try it out tomorrow. Just then, the Lady Knight, in E's harness, approaches him to talk. She apologizes for treating him suspiciously earlier, explaining her duty is to shield the House of Cleese from harm, which takes precedence over entertaining guests. Noah realizes she is not a maid, but the vice captain of the warrior corps, known as the Divine Shield since childhood. She thanks him for saving Lin, stating she will strive to be someone he can rely on. Noah is unsure why she is making such a big deal out of it, but she assures him he can ask for her help if needed. Noah accepts her gratitude, and she warns him to behave more formally in the audience chamber in the future to avoid severe punishment. especially in front of other vassals. Noor understands, and she asks his name. He introduces himself, surprising her, but she says nothing and leaves. Before Noor can leave, the warrior from earlier, named Gilbert, confronts him and challenges him to a duel to test his strength. The scene then shifts to Gilbert leading Noor somewhere, and Noor wonders what Gilbert wants from him. Feeling tired and wanting to return home, Noor asks Gilbert about his intentions. They arrive at the training room, and Gilbert requests a sparring match with Noor. Reflecting that he hasn't sparred since his training school days, Noor is intrigued when Gilbert, who is quite famous in the capital, asks him to choose his weapon. Noor sees this as a rare opportunity to face a seasoned veteran and selects a sword for the match. As they enter the sparring stage, Noor feels unsure about being a good opponent, but resolves to give his best effort. The other soldiers in the training grounds are surprised to see someone sparring with their captain and wonder if Noor has a death wish. Gilbert attacks Noor, but he manages to dodge. As Gilbert continues his attacks, Noor keeps dodging and notices the refinement in Gilbert's moves, suggesting intense training. However, he wonders why Gilbert seems slow and realizes that Gilbert must be holding back since Noor is much weaker. Noor asks Gilbert to stop for a moment. Gilbert halts, and Noor tells him he knows Gilbert is being considerate, but asks him not to hold back so much. Gilbert, realizing he might have subconsciously held back because Noor is human, apologizes and attacks at full speed. Noor still manages to dodge and notices Gilbert's increased speed, but also observes that Gilbert leaves his back defenseless after every attack. Noor continues to dodge and suspects that Gilbert might be giving him an opening on purpose to trap him. While Gilbert is frustrated that his attacks aren't connecting, Gilbert then uses a move to change the direction of his spear mid-attack. But Noor dodges this as well, which provides Gilbert with an opening for another attack. Surprisingly, Noor dodges again and tells Gilbert he can go even faster if he wants. This angers Gilbert, as he is already going as fast as he can, which Noor realizes. Reflecting on his own training, Noor feels he might have finally become stronger and could possibly win. However, in his anger, Gilbert uses his finishing move, Dragrave, which almost hits Noor, but is dodged at the last second. Gilbert, unable to see how Noor dodged, is freaked out, and Noor suddenly concedes the match. The scene then cuts to Noor returning home, thinking about his close call. Meanwhile, at the training grounds, the other soldiers are stunned. They speculate that the captain couldn't have missed, believing Noor might have been knocked back by the sheer wind pressure from the attack. They think Noor would have lost his head if the captain had used a real spear, given Gilbert's reputation as a once-in-a-century genius. Gilbert knows the truth and reflects on his past, when he was called a genius from the moment he picked up a spear. He traveled to a village seeking strong opponents, but was disappointed by the weak villagers, as no one could stand against him. He believed he would become even stronger with continued training, but had no worthy sparring partners. One day, the village chief asked if he was enjoying his stay, but Gilbert irritably replied that it was boring. The chief, aware of Gilbert's quest for strong foes, suggested that he return to the capital, as strong soldiers were gathering there due to the crumbling power balance between the kingdom and other countries. Gilbert took the advice and returned to the capital, joining the army and defeating every strong recruit without challenge. Shifting his focus to monsters, he found no one who could satisfy him. Bored and frustrated, he was resting and looking at the clouds when his master approached. Noticing Gilbert's dissatisfaction despite being awarded the title of Divine Spear, a title comparable to the master's Divine Sword, his master suggested fighting in ease, but Gilbert knew he could defeat her as her strength was different from his. Wishing for more fighters like his master, Gilbert found the thought intriguing. He asked if his master ever got bored teaching amateur soldiers and adventurers. His master explained that these people would protect their kingdom and might one day surpass him. Gilbert hoped this would happen in his generation. Back in the present, Gilbert wondered what kind of person could kill a minotaur single-handedly, as Noor had done. He couldn't figure Noor out, noting his lack of interest in lavish rewards and his confidence when speaking to the king. Despite not sensing any strength from Noor, he was able to dodge all of Gilbert's attacks. Gilbert was puzzled why his spear couldn't reach Noor, even when he gave it his all, and was ashamed that even his ultimate attack, faster than the speed of sound, failed. Unable to fathom how Noor dodged that attack, Gilbert experienced his first defeat in single combat. He wondered if Noor had yielded to save him from embarrassment in front of his soldiers, feeling humiliated. After defeating him, Noor simply said he looked forward to seeing Gilbert again and left. Gilbert then noticed some cracks on the floor of the stage, bewildered by how they appeared. He thought things were finally getting interesting. Meanwhile, Noor, on his way back home, reflected on the match, acknowledging he still had much to learn and shouldn't get cocky like before. He realized he had used physical enhancement combined with feather step to dodge Gilbert's special attack. The confident Les Bum thought that Gilbert must have slowed down his attack to allow him to dodge, having forgotten his own name. He recognized he should be grateful to Gilbert for showing him his weaknesses, and resolved to train even harder. The next morning, we see Noor using the legendary sword to clean drains. Impressed by how the sword made the job easier, he thought it was great, noting that it didn't chip no matter how harshly he used it. He humorously considered the possibility of becoming a legendary drain cleaner. Others gathered around, astonished by his talent, mentioned they would commission him to clean their drains next time. The scene then cuts to Noor in the forest. Though glad he could clean drains better, he was saddened that his construction job was suspended due to a recent incident. He worried about being unnecessary if the guild ran out of work, and pondered how he could help people with his sword when that happened. He considered using the sword for grilling food, rowing a boat, and other purposes, but never mentioned the traditional use of swords. Trying to light a fire for cooking with his tiny flame, he realized it wouldn't be enough. Bummed out that despite completing training in all schools, he only learned basic skills, Noor encountered Lin. Remembering that Anise told him not to be overly familiar with their family, he called her by her full name, but she insisted he call her just Lin. She explained she found him by asking the guildmaster, whom Noor thought wouldn't know his exact location, realizing she must have used her tracking skills. Lin asked Noor to take her in as a page, a term unfamiliar to him. She explained that a page is similar to an apprentice, attending to daily needs while receiving instruction and wisdom. She requested permission to stay by his side, but he outright refused. Worried she had offended him, Lin insisted she could be helpful if given the chance. Noor explained he had nothing to teach her and didn't need someone to take care of him. Lin offered compensation, but Noor remained firm in his refusal. Lin began to cry, swearing she would be helpful, and demonstrated her skills: Hell Flare, Icicle Dance, a knockoff lightsaber, and Mist Blade. Noor stopped her from showing more skills. Lin thought this meant he would accept her as an apprentice, but he denied it, knowing she was more talented than him and felt like a commoner in comparison. Convincing her further, Noor said he was even more certain he couldn't teach her anything. Lin, thinking he doubted her abilities, revealed that her talents were acknowledged by the 6 sovereigns, teachers of the 6 training schools. Aware she was no match for him, Lin asked how to stop pestering him. Noor decided to show her one of his low-level abilities to prove his point, using Tiny Flame. Surprised, Lin returned home, recalling how, during her training, instructors mentioned a legendary boy who conquered all 6 schools at the age of 12, although it sounded unbelievable given the harsh training. This changed when she met Noor, remembering Okun, the magic instructor, showing her his tiny flame and explaining it could grow with practice. Realizing that making the flame bigger required time and dedication, Lin was speechless seeing Noor's giant tiny flame. Noor explained that his other skills were the same, leading her to believe he was unparalleled in all 6 branches. She felt ashamed by her poor display of skills in front of such a skilled individual, recalling how he never boasted even after defeating a minotaur with a single broadsword. She admired his strength in both body and mind, knowing nothing could daunt him anymore. Determined not to give up on becoming his apprentice, Lin decided to learn from Nor's strength, knowing she and her brother would eventually leave the kingdom. That night, Nor left a restaurant and encountered Lin outside. She admitted her immaturity and declared she would keep following him until deemed worthy of being his page. Calling him instructor, she believed the answer their house had searched for generations lay with him, while Nor wondered how things had turned out like this. The scene shifts to Rain, deep in thought, questioning why his father would bestow the black sword upon a stranger. Rain recalls that when his father was an adventurer, he ventured into the labyrinth of the lost with the 6 sovereigns to retrieve that very sword, a quest that took years of peril. The blade, forged from materials never before seen, is tougher than both orichalcum and mithril. Renowned as the indestructible blade due to its inability to be scratched by any skill or technique, its greatest mystery is how it ended up in such a deteriorated state. Rain believes the sword is too valuable to be given away lightly and realizes that his father must have sensed the ominous presence enveloping their country. He concludes that his father took a gamble on that man, possibly viewing him as a trump card against the impending threat. Meanwhile, we see Noah grabbing a bite to eat at a food stall, accompanied by Lin. He asks if it's okay for her to be out in public, to which she assures him it is. Noah then mentions that he plans to visit the guild after eating, and Lin, referring to him as her master, agrees. Noah feels unworthy of being called her master, and worries that the more he tries to correct the misunderstanding, the worse it gets. He hopes she will realize he isn't anything special once she sees the odd jobs he takes on, and they continue their meal. At the guild master is surprised to see Noah with Lin again. He discreetly inquires about the situation, and Noah explains that it's complicated. Sensing that Noah might not want to elaborate, the guild master changes the subject, but Noah insists he does want to talk about it, as he himself doesn't fully understand the situation. The guild master shifts focus, asking if Noah is there for a job. Noah requests a task suitable for 2 people, and the guild master suggests a goblin hunting quest outside of town, given Lin's B-ranked adventurer status. Excited, Noah recalls that goblins are often used by adventurers for training. He is thrilled at the prospect of accepting such a commission, but wonders if he should take advantage of Lin's rank. Feeling it might be selfish to ask her to form a party with him, especially after urging her to leave, Noah doubts whether Lin would even want to team up with someone as weak as him. Lin notices his hesitation and asks if something is wrong. Noah questions if she's okay with him relying on her rank. Lin reassures him, stating that he can utilize any of her abilities. Despite feeling guilty for depending on a young girl, Noah is eager to fulfill one of his dreams and begins to leave to find the goblins. The guild master reminds him that he hasn't been told where to find them, so Noah returns. The guild master approves the mission and warns Noah that goblins, though weak, can still be dangerous. He provides directions to the goblins and instructs them to report their kill count and bring back the goblins' right ears as proof, or they won't be paid. Lin notes that the goblins are located in the Forest of Beasts, and the guild master mentions that they haven't been seen much lately, suggesting they gather herbs if goblins are scarce. They understand and set off on their quest. At the city gates, the guards check their documents and allow them to pass. As they enter the Forest of Beasts, Noah observes that it is vastly different from the southern forest he frequents. He notices the massive trees, and Lin explains that the ecosystem here is also different. Curious about goblins, Noah asks what kind of monsters they are. Lin informs him that goblins usually eat fruits and small animals, but will aggressively attack people. If left unchecked, they multiply rapidly, and when they run out of food, they assault human settlements. This is why the capital regularly sends adventurers to cull their numbers. However, the forest ecosystem thrives with goblins, so they can't be completely eradicated. She explains that this forest is also home to rare flora and fauna, making it an ideal hunting ground and income source for new adventurers. Noah is impressed by Lin's knowledge, realizing that aside from her strength, she is also well informed. He feels there is nothing he can teach her. They venture deeper into the forest, enveloped in a light fog. After a while, Lin uses her detection ability to search for goblins, but finds none, which she finds unusual. She confirms the rumors about the goblins' scarcity must be true, but detects something further inside. They decide to investigate, heading even deeper into the forest. The forest grows darker due to the dense vegetation, and Lin notes that goblins prefer such terrain. Suddenly, she looks surprised. Noah asks what's wrong, and Lin says the presence she detected was right in front of them, but has now vanished. Noah suggests it might be a sick monster that died, which Lin finds plausible. They proceed to the location to investigate. They find nothing on the ground, but Noah spots a goblin's corpse hanging in the air. Realizing something is amiss, Lin casts an uncover spell, revealing a large hidden goblin emperor. Lin tries to identify the monster, but Noah, amazed by its size, assumes it must be a goblin. He is shocked by how much larger it is than he imagined and can't believe that adventurers consider goblins to be the weakest of all monsters. He notices that the creature has green skin, 2 legs, and a sharp glare typical of goblins. Despite his disbelief, he realizes that Lin is trembling. He assumes that, despite her talent, she must still be inexperienced in combat. However, Lin knows that the Goblin Emperor is a subspecies of the Goblin King and a catastrophe-class monster. She explains that Goblin Emperors are artificially created through forbidden research, capable of cannibalizing their kind to absorb mana and grow stronger. Noah is unaware of the significance of the Goblin Emperor and reassures Lin not to be scared, dismissing it as just another goblin. Lin wonders if Noah had anticipated this situation all along and came prepared. She remembers his odd reaction when he first heard about the goblins. Noah suggests they take down the monster together, and Lin, determined, agrees. The monster attacks them with tree branches, but Noah skillfully parries. It strikes again, but Noah disarms one of the branches, giving Lin an opening to cast Wind Cutter and Icicle Dance spells. However, the goblin is too fast, and her spells miss. Noah marvels at the goblin's speed and saves Lin from another tree thrown by the monster, parrying it in time. Lin notices the Goblin Emperor's wounds healing rapidly and spots a mana stone on its forehead. Realizing this is the source of its regeneration, she tells Noah they need to remove it. The goblin then hurls multiple trees at once, overwhelming Noah, but Lin uses her wind blast to deflect them. The monster is injured, but heals immediately, confirming Lin's suspicion about the mana stone. Noah realizes they can't win a war of attrition and doubts his ability to remove the stone. He then gets an idea and asks Lin to cast Wind Blast at his back, explaining she won't hit him directly but his sword, propelling him forward at incredible speed. Lin is hesitant, knowing the spell's strength, but Noah convinces her it's their best chance. Lin casts Wind Blast, and Noah is launched forward. The speed is overwhelming, so he uses physical enhancement and Feather Step to cope, breaking a bone in the process and using Low Heal to mend it. He then leaps and strikes the goblin's forehead, dislodging the mana stone. Noah crashes to the ground as the goblin writhes in excruciating pain. Lin rushes to Noah, who assures her he's fine and asks her to finish the monster. He requests that she make its death quick, but Lin, misunderstanding, uses Hell Flare, burning the goblin alive. Noah, equally oblivious, prays after the horrific execution, deciding he needs to stick to simpler jobs until he's stronger. Later, Rain learns about the Goblin Emperor and examines the large mana stone it left behind, realizing the monster was colossal, several times larger than a Goblin King. He suspects the Magic Empire's involvement and learns the Monostone is the demon's heart of the holy theocracy of Mithra. Concerned for his sister, he inquires about her well-being. The Shadow Company reports she only suffered minor scratches, surprising Rain that they managed to slay the monster with so few injuries. The Shadow Company also mentions the goblin used an advanced concealment spell, hiding for 2 to 3 days. Rain is troubled that even the Shadow Company failed to detect the spell and wonders how the creature was transported into their country unnoticed. He speculates that their sensory network would have detected a summoning. Rain learns there was a decrease in goblin activity in the area, possibly affecting other regions too. The Shadow Company presents a report on strange incidents over the last 3 months, and Rain orders them to continue investigating. Noah and Lin return to the guild to report, surprising the guild master that Noah defeated a goblin. Noah admits it was tough, crediting Lin for their success. Lin insists Noah did most of the work, but Noah feels it was a significant day for him, being his first hunt. The guild master, overhearing, assumes Noah watched while Lin did the heavy lifting, praising Noah for his cautious approach. Noah recounts the goblin's weakness being the gem on its forehead, surprising the guild master, who notes that monostones are typically in the heart or throat. He wonders if Noah faced something other than a goblin. Noah asks Lin for confirmation, and she agrees, trusting her master's judgment. The guild master speculates it might have been a rare goblin and asks for proof. Noah, having burned the monster, realizes he forgot to collect its ear, leaving them without evidence. The scene cuts to Rain reading reports about strange noises at night, increasing reports of lost pets, a grandfather disappearing during a walk, nearby forests suddenly falling silent, and livestock cowering in fear. He thinks these incidents are similar to what happened in the Forest of Beasts and wonders if the enemy has already penetrated their nation. He orders the Shadow Company to prepare for dispatch, including those who can use uncover and detect concealment spells. He also calls for all 6 sovereigns, declaring it an emergency. As the Shadow Company leaves, Rain wonders why he didn't notice sooner and can't believe the Magic Empire would go this far. He questions what wrong his kingdom has done to them, and if human lives mean nothing to them. Angrily, he asks himself if they are preparing to raze his kingdom to the ground. Afterwards, we see Noah and Lin celebrating Noah's first hunting quest. Lin is grateful the guildmaster gave them their reward despite forgetting the goblin's ear, and Noah remembers he did it to celebrate his first hunting quest. Noah enjoys the food, but wonders how long Lin will follow him, thinking her family might worry. After finishing her meal, Lin says she'll head home, and Noah thanks her for her help. Before she leaves, her brother finds her and apologizes for interrupting Noah's meal. He asks Noah to accompany Lin to a mountain town tomorrow, offering to arrange a carriage and escort. He can't reveal details, but hopes Noah will accept the quest. Noah speculates Rain might want them to transport something, and Rain assures him he'll be compensated. Rain submits a formal commission to the guild, and we see Noah, Lin, and Inez in a carriage. Noah recalls the guildmaster saying the job was generous and he could relax. The country bumpkin accepted the quest to ride a carriage for the first time, hoping to see another country. He notices Lin looking down and asks if she's not interested in the scenery. She lies, saying she is, and Noah thinks about setting out on his own journeys once he becomes a proper adventurer. Lin apologizes for her brother dragging him into this, but Noah doesn't mind, as he's getting paid and owes her for the goblin hunt. He remembers Rain telling them to go to Tauros, a mountain city northwest of the capital, and stay there for a while. Rain mentioned that if nothing happens, they should go deeper into the mountains and cross the border into the holy theocracy of Mithra, treating it as a pleasure trip if nothing happens. Lin hopes nothing happens, and Inez assures her she'll ensure their safety. Inez remembers the prince's secret assignment. If the capital faces disaster, she should flee to Mithra with Noah and Lin. Inez wonders if Lin knows this. But the prince said she doesn't, as she'd insist on staying. Inez agreed to the request, and in the present, Noah and the others take a break. Inez apologizes for dragging Noah into this, but he doesn't mind, thinking it's just a trip. He notices she looks troubled, but she assures him she can keep them safe. Noah isn't worried, as he can keep himself safe and is good at running away. Inez shows him her shield, telling him he can hide behind it if needed. Noah understands and recalls Lin saying Inez is as strong as the swordsman who sparred with him, capable of defeating dragons. He thinks they are on another level, as he struggled with a single goblin. He tells Inez she's talented, and Inez recalls her life. She explains that after the orphanage took her in, she discovered a mysterious power. She accidentally hurt a girl with it and became terrified of her power. Later, she met the 6 sovereigns, who assured her they treated the girl and asked to see her power. Hesitantly, Inez showed them her power. They recognized it as a rare gift from the gods. Okun told her it could be a blade or a shield, depending on how she used it, even capable of destroying a nation. The sovereign of the warrior school, Dandog, promised to teach her to use this power. Dandog took Inez in and trained her to use her gift. Despite this, she couldn't shake her fear of accidentally hurting someone, so she distanced herself from others. She became callous to others' feelings and behavior, but this wasn't entirely true. She recalls a time when she was hunting monsters with her foster father, Dandog. During the mission, her father mentioned someone named Nor, expressing a wish for Nor's presence when they discovered an endless number of monsters. Hearing this made Inez jealous, a feeling that intensified now that Nor is in front of her. As they continue their journey, Inez realizes her feelings are causing her to waver. She reminds herself that her duty is to protect Lin with her life as the shield of House Clays. Noah notices a strange trail in the wheat fields, resembling a trampled path. He informs the others, and Lin senses something unusual in the fields. Inez stops the carriage, and Lin uses an uncover spell, revealing a concealed monster. Meanwhile, the capital is attacked by several monsters. The king realizes the time has come. A soldier informs him that the warrior corps are engaging the monsters, but are short on troops. Rain orders the deployment of the swordsman corps to blockade roads and manage the situation while evacuating citizens. He also commands the deployment of the Shadow Company and the Hunter Corps to eliminate as many monsters as possible. The king can't believe Derdis has followed through on his threats and wonders where the 6 sovereigns are. Rain informs him they have been deployed and are fighting powerful monsters in the city and nearby forests, spreading them thin. Rain hopes Lin and the others reach the town safely. Before Lin broke the spell, a boy walking with the monster she uncovered was thinking about killing humans. When she used her spell, the boy was distracted, and the monster attacked him. Inez identifies the monster as a Black Death dragon and wonders why such a terrifying creature is here. Noah sees the boy in danger and rushes to help, parrying the monster's attacks. Inez tells Lin the boy appeared when she used Uncover, suggesting he is one of the demon folk, demi-humans with the power to control demons. Lin recalls her brother explaining that demon folk are reviled, seen as closer to monsters than humans, and nearly annihilated the holy theocracy of Mitra 200 years ago. Their descendants, harboring a deep grudge against humans, have survived. Lin realizes the boy must be responsible for bringing the monster here, and Inez agrees, thinking he might be taking it to the capital. The Uncover spell likely disrupted his control. She wonders why Noah is helping someone like that, thinking he's acting foolishly. Lin insists they help Noah, but Inez stops her, saying it's too late. While fighting, Noah thinks the toad-like monster is neither fast nor strong, recalling the goblin was tougher. He aims to hold out until Lin and Inez catch up. The monster attacks with a black mass, and Noah parries it, preventing the boy from being injured. However, the black mass disperses, revealing it as poison. Inez explains, this is what makes the monster terrifying. and Noah's vision starts to blur. He realizes the poison is strong, and his body begins to go limp. Noah recalls Anise trying to warn him about the monster before he jumped out of the carriage. He gets on his knees as the dragon charges up another poison breath. Lin tries to rescue Noah, but Anise shields her with a barrier. Lin pleads to be let go, but Anise refuses, stating she will withstand the dragon's attacks while Lin flees. She emphasizes the survival of their nation is at stake, but Lin still wants to save Noah. Anise explains it's too late, as a single breath of the poison is fatal. Even the Sovereign of Salvation, Sane, might not save him now. The monster releases another poison breath, stronger than the last, and Anise shields Lin. Lin tries to purify the poison around Noah with her spell, but it doesn't reach him. She notices dead birds that inhaled the poison and worries about Noah. Anise apologizes for not being able to save him, feeling the desire to protect, but unable to act. The dragon's claw collides with her barrier, and as the poisonous fog subsides, she sees Noah still fighting. She's surprised he can move in that condition and realizes what her father meant. She aspired to protect others at the cost of her own life, but believes it's too late for Noah. The monster topples the barely standing Noah, who notices poison coming from his mouth. He thinks he will somehow manage. The silver-haired boy reflects on his past, recalling the time when he was locked up in a prison cell alongside others of his kind. He explains that they were known as cursed children because of their ability to control monsters, a power that had led them to be treated like livestock. They were fed stale bread as if they were animals. He goes on to explain that for generations, their race had used this power to control livestock. But eventually, someone began using it on monsters, sparking a war that resulted in countless deaths. Since then, their entire species had been hated. The boy remembers a time when he dared to stare at the person who brought them food, only to be severely beaten because the man didn't like being stared at. He says that being beaten was an everyday occurrence for him and the others. When he once tried to ask why they were being treated so cruelly, he was beaten beyond recognition and left with only water for 3 days, no food. The boy also reveals that his powers allow him to hear the thoughts of others. Whenever he was brought out to be put on display for the townspeople, they treated him with disdain, venting their anger over the loss of their loved ones on him. When they discovered his ability to read minds, they became even more violent, realizing they no longer needed to hold back since he knew what they were thinking. Despite all the horrific things done to him, the boy insists he never thought of taking revenge. Although the beatings and scorn were painful, he couldn't imagine doing the same to others. He was determined not to shed more blood. But then, the man who had beaten him earlier gave him some monsters and instructed him to take them to another country. The man promised that by doing this, the boy would be helping not only his race, but an entire country. He assured the boy that if he followed orders, he would never be beaten again, and both he and his friends would be fed good food every day. However, if he refused, things would remain the same, and they would likely worsen. The boy couldn't read the man's mind because of a magical item on his head, but he knew that the man had kept his word so far, so he decided to trust him and set off for Clay's kingdom. On his journey, the boy thought about the possibility of having to kill the people there. At that moment, his concealment spell broke, and the monster he controlled escaped. It attacked him, leaving him lying on the ground, worried that he had failed his mission. He feared that his failure would cause his friends to suffer as well. As the monster approached him, the boy realized he was going to die there. He regretted not being useful to anyone in his life, but found solace in the thought that no one could hurt him after death. He hoped that in his next life, he wouldn't be beaten and could be of use to someone. He wished he could eat tasty food. Resigning himself to his fate, he was prepared to die. But then Norse appeared and saved him, fighting the monster to protect him. The boy was bewildered by Norse's actions. When Norse was attacked by the monster's poison breath, he used a low-level healing spell on himself and also healed the boy, who had been slightly poisoned. The boy was surprised by this, and even more so when the dragon unleashed more poisonous breath. Yet the boy remained unharmed due to the protective layer of the healing spell. Norse continued to battle the dragon, and after a desperate struggle, the dragon finally managed to bring him down. However, Norse noticed that the poison in his body was subsiding, and he thought he might manage to survive. He then recalled how, after his parents died and he returned from training schools, he had gone to the mountains to gather food. He collected a variety of plants and vegetables and made a soup by mixing them all together. The soup was delicious, and he thought nothing of eating it, even though he didn't check the ingredients carefully. However, he ended up consuming a deadly poison known as Dragon's Ruin, which caused him to start bleeding profusely. He was so weak that he could barely stand, but he used his low-level healing spell on himself. The spell helped somewhat, and by the next morning, he could just barely walk. After washing off the blood, he checked his books to identify what he had eaten. He discovered it was Dragon's Ruin, a plant his mother had warned him never to eat. Despite this, he stubbornly continued to train, even though he could barely walk straight. His body eventually gave out, and he collapsed while training, forcing him to use his healing spell on himself again. When he woke up, the pain in his stomach was gone, and he was hungry. Determined not to repeat his mistake, he returned to the forest, but made sure to avoid Dragon's Ruin. However, an extremely poisonous snake bit him. He killed the snake, but the poison knocked him out. Yet, he woke up after some time, surprised to find himself unharmed. He then took the snake home, cooked it, and ate it, thinking the poison wouldn't affect him since he had survived the bite. The snake was delicious, and the next day, he deliberately let a similar snake bite him again. Noticing that the poison's effects were slower this time, he realized he was developing immunity to the poison and thought he might even learn a new skill from this. From then on, he continued searching for and eating poisonous plants and animals. Although he sometimes collapsed and even coughed up blood, he kept eating without worry, finding that all poisonous plants and animals were surprisingly tasty. The story then returns to the present, where we see that Norse's body has already neutralized the dragon's poison. Norse thinks that the toad might be tasty as well, and when the toad attacks him, he dodges. He believes he should be fine now that he can detoxify the poison from this monster, and hopes the boy is safe. The monster attacks him again, but Norse parries all of its strikes. The boy is amazed to see Norse fighting such a terrifying creature on his own. The monster, now desperate, charges its most powerful poison breath yet, and Norse realizes it is putting everything into this one attack. However, Norse shuts the toad's mouth before it can release the poison, causing the breath to explode inside the toad, ultimately defeating it. Afterward, Atner is disgusted by the mess he made and surprised at how dangerous the toads outside the city are. He briefly thinks the creature might be tasty, and then asks the boy if he's okay. Noticing the boy looks pale, Atner decides to have Lin check on him later. He asks if the boy came all this way alone, but the boy hesitantly admits he brought the monster with him, promising to take it to the city. Atner, a country bumpkin, wonders if the boy was transporting the toad as an ingredient. Atner speculates that the boy kept the toad alive to preserve its meat and used concealment to protect it from thieves. Realizing a big city might have a recipe for cooking something poisonous like this, Atner feels foolish for potentially ruining valuable merchandise and apologizes for messing up the delivery. He offers compensation, but the boy, confused, says there's no need. Relieved, Atner wonders how the boy managed to bring the toad all the way here. The boy explains he can control monsters, which amazes Atner, who considers it a useful, God-given power. The boy then reveals, hesitantly, that he is a demon folk, and that his entire race shares this ability. Atner, unfamiliar with demon folk, wishes he had such powers, imagining how useful they would be for tasks like delivering letters or helping with fieldwork. The boy, sensing Atner's acceptance, asks if he's not afraid of him. Atner reassures him, saying his ability is valuable no matter what others think, which surprises the boy. Jokingly, Atner offers to take the ability if the boy doesn't want it, which moves the boy to tears. He's overwhelmed by the idea that someone could need him. Atner wonders why the boy thinks so little of himself, despite his blessing, and suspects it's due to his circumstances, but believes he'll be okay eventually. Lin and Anise then arrive, asking if Atner is all right. Atner reassures them, noting his bleeding has stopped and that he's resistant to poison, which surprises Lin. She realizes the poison wasn't ordinary. It was the ultimate poison capable of corroding the earth itself. The only explanation, she concludes, is the sacred spirit, a state of extraordinary dedication that purifies anything touched and heals any wound instantly. She's astonished that Atner has achieved this at such a young age. Atner then asks Lin to check on the boy. The boy insists he's fine, and Lin recognizes that he's a demon folk. Atner is surprised she knows this, and Lin asks what he intends to do with the boy. Atner hopes to let him travel with them, but Anise is uncertain. Lin notes that most countries would advise killing a demon folk on sight, and asks if Atner is sure about his decision. Atner is sure, though he laments the destruction of the wheat field, feeling they owe the boy since they ruined his toad delivery. Lin and Anise are shocked to learn the boy planned to take the monster into the city, and Lin considers the boy too dangerous, even if he's a child. Atner then asks who gave the boy this job. The boy says he wasn't told anything about his employer. Anise warns against keeping secrets, but realizes from his behavior that he genuinely doesn't know. The boy explains that this was how he was raised, leading Anise to conclude that he is a slave. Anise explains that while slavery is banned in their kingdom, it exists in some other countries, and the boy was likely exploited as a child soldier. She asks if he has a place to return to, but he doesn't, revealing he was blindfolded when brought here and doesn't even know where he came from. Hearing this, Atner wonders if they could take him to the nearest city. Lin, feeling remorseful for her earlier narrow-mindedness, recalls her father's advice to trust what lies before her eyes, realizing she almost made a mistake. She sees that the boy isn't an evildoer, just a scared child. Atner then asks the boy his name, and he introduces himself as Rollo. Atner is pleased with the short name, as he struggles to remember long ones. Lin then asks Anise if they can take Rollo with them. Anise understands but remains hesitant, explaining that demon folk are not allowed in the holy theocracy of Maitreya, making it difficult to take him with them. Leaving him in a city midway might mean he wouldn't survive, which Lin acknowledges. Before they can decide what to do, a man resembling an assassin suddenly arrives, surprised to see that Rollo is still alive. The assassin notices that the cargo hasn't been delivered properly, and Nor asks if he was the one who ordered the delivery. The assassin informs him that he's just a hired hand and wonders if he's the one who did this to the dragon. The assassin admits that he did and apologizes for it. The assassin is confused by this apology and clarifies that his only business is with the kid that Nora has with him. The assassin explains he's there to take the kid home, and Nora is glad to see him coming for Rollo. The assassin mentions this will get him a lot of money, and he tries to attack Rollo, but Nora parries the attack. Surprised by this, Nora asks him what he's doing. The assassin tells him that he's in his way and asks him to just hand over the demon folk. Nora wonders if the assassin is talking about Rollo, but he doesn't care about his name and states that delivering his corpse will earn him a lot of money. Nora is shocked to hear this, and the assassin attacks again. Nora blocks and keeps defending himself. The assassin says he could also bring Rollo in alive and let his employer kill him, but it would be a hassle. The assassin tries to go after Rollo again, but Nora parries his attack, and Lin can't see what's happening in the fast-paced battle. Anise tells her to stay behind her at all costs. The assassin thinks Noah is strange and attacks again, but Noah parries once more. The assassin continues his assault, and Noah keeps blocking. The assassin considers Noah a pain and decides to aim for his head first. He charges with a full power attack, and Noah blocks. The force of the attack sends Noah flying, but he manages to stop himself. He can't fathom how the assassin can deliver such heavy blows with such small knives. He thinks that the assassin is swinging as hard as the cow he faced earlier, and one of the assassin's knives breaks. The assassin replaces it with another, and Noah parries his volley of attacks. He thinks he's barely protecting Rollo by relying on his instincts, and knows the assassin will overpower him soon. The assassin is surprised that Noah can stand up to him for so long, and Lin can feel the force of his attacks, even from far away. Inez shields her with a barrier and tells her to step back because it's dangerous. She thinks there's only one man who wears an outfit like this, and reveals it's a former S-ranked adventurer named Deadman Zadu. Inez recalls interrupting the meeting of the 6 sovereigns some time ago, and Gilbert asked why she left her guard post. She explained she found something strange while on duty and said it's an unresolved case, but it's ongoing even though the target is deceased. Dandalg told her to ignore it and mentioned that the target has been declared dead to the public, but is still alive. Sig realized he was talking about Deadman Zadu, who became an S-ranked adventurer at a young age and later an S-ranked target. Hearing this, Gilbert got interested and wondered if they wanted him to handle this guy. Sig stopped him, and Gilbert was surprised that this guy was strong enough to intimidate the 6 sovereigns. He tried to find out who he was, but Inez stopped him. Mayan said Zatu was too dangerous. Karu mentioned there was no merit in hunting him down now, and since Gilbert was interested, Okun explained that Zadam mastered ancient dwarven alchemy and earned the title of Dragon Slayer at 13. His skills gained recognition, and his fame spread to distant lands. He climbed to the top among adventurers, and Gilbert thinks he sounds like a legend from fairy tales. Inez wondered how someone like that became an S-ranked target. Sig mentioned that Zadu didn't always use his skills for good, and that the information should be in the report she found. Inez then noticed he killed 36 members of the Sorenza trading company, and Gilbert couldn't believe he killed regular folks. Sane explained that many in the guild wanted his license revoked, but he significantly contributed by single-handedly defeating disaster-class monsters, so the guild couldn't agree. Sig revealed that he would accept any commission without discrimination if it paid well, disregarding common sense and history. He said the most extreme example was him destroying an entire nation. Zadu wiped out the military of a nation, as if they were goblins, and massacred their royal family. This made people realize he had no concept of right and wrong, making him an S-ranked target. Inez said countless adventurers challenged him for the bounty on his head, but it only resulted in corpses and a growing reward. The guild declared him dead to prevent more casualties, leading to his moniker, Deadman Zadu. During the intense fight with Noah, Zadu breaks yet another knife and can't believe that Noah has already shattered most of his collection. Noah apologizes, explaining it happened because Zadu initiated the attack. Zadu assures him there's no blame and admits he can understand mithril weapons breaking, but not orichalcum and dragon tusk. Noah offers to compensate for the damage, but Zadu finds both Noah and his sword very strange, determined to end this now. Zadu tosses the cross he's carrying into the air, which transforms into multiple silver crosses. Inez recognizes it as a lethal weapon capable of causing massive destruction, while Zadu taunts Noah, saying he can break as many as he wants since they can always be remade. Zadu targets Rollo with the silver crosses. Noah deflects most of them, but can't stop them all and uses his body to shield Rollo. Inez observes this and realizes Noah won't last long this way. Though she wants to help, she hesitates, knowing her primary duty is to ensure Lin's safe escape from the country. Torn between her duty and her desire to assist Noah, she seeks Lin's permission to intervene. Lin grants it. As Noah struggles to deflect the silver crosses, Inez rushes to his aid with her shield, launching an attack on Zadu, who easily dodges. She reiterates that her duty is to protect Lin, and for this reason, she cannot let Noah die. Apologizing for her delayed assistance, Inez is thanked by Noah for saving him. Inez uses her shields offensively again, but Zadu slips through her attacks. Noah is impressed by Inez's skills, but notes that Zadu is adept at evading her shields. Inez suggests they break the stalemate by focusing on defense, asking Noah to take on the offensive role. Noah considers the speed of the silver crosses, comparing them to fast birds he's encountered before. He spots the broken claws of a toad nearby and instructs Inez to lower part of her barrier on his signal. Trusting his plan, Inez complies. Noah enhances his right arm and hurls the toad's claws at the silver crosses, destroying some of them. Pleased with the success, Noah continues the attack, using the same strategy to eliminate more crosses. As they near victory, Zadu suddenly targets Inez, but Noah manages to intercept the attack just in time. Zadu, surprised by Noah's ability to parry, is shocked to see his adamantite knife break. Frustrated, Zadu launches another attack, but Noah parries it again and asks him to stop with a surprise attack. Zadu is puzzled by Noah's skills and the peculiar nature of his sword. He wonders how Noah can see and deflect his attacks so effectively, but Noah simply claims he manages somehow. Deciding not to waste any more weapons, Zadu mentions an upcoming grand festival in the capital, but states that after this incident, he's no longer interested in attending. Inez inquires for more details, but Zadu only knows it's supposed to be significant. Before departing, he tells Noah that he's an oddity and that he's met many strange individuals, but none like him. He warns the demon folk to count themselves lucky for being spared and launches one final surprise attack at Noah. Noah blocks it effortlessly, and Zadu disappears in a cloud of black smoke. Lin recalls Zadu mentioning a festival in the capital and expresses her interest. Noah suggests they should head back, but Rollo is hesitant. Noah assures Rollo they won't take him to Mitra, but to the capital instead. Rollo warns them not to go, citing rumors of a terrifying monster expected to attack the capital, more dangerous than the Black Dragon of Death. Noah is taken aback, and Lin, concerned, insists they return immediately. Noah agrees, but Inez refuses to escort them back, revealing her orders from Rain to escort Lin out of the capital. Lin understands her brother's intentions, but believes running away won't solve anything. She insists on returning to the capital to warn of the impending danger. Inez agrees to return, provided Lin stays by her side throughout the journey. Noah asks Rollo about his plans, offering to part ways if he prefers not to join them. Rollo decides to accompany them, acknowledging his people's role in the situation. Noah sympathizes with the demon folk's plight, though Lin suspects he's merely disappointed about missing out on tasting the poisonous toad. The scene shifts to the group traveling back to the capital. Lin is uncertain, but takes comfort in being with a man who defeated the Black Dragon of Death and held his own against Dedmanzadeh. She understands her duty as a princess is to ensure this heroic figure reaches the capital safely, even at the risk of her life. She instructs Inez to proceed swiftly, and Inez complies. Meanwhile, in the capital, Rain surveys the aftermath of a recent battle. Dalkin reports that most citizens have been evacuated to the town square, and that the 6 sovereigns helped fend off the enemy's ambush. Rain, though relieved, remains vigilant, anticipating further attacks. He suspects the enemy might exploit their weakened state and launch another major assault. Rain ponders which direction the next attack will come from, and even considers the possibility of an aerial assault. Dalkin assures him that the Hunter Corps found no flying beasts, but Rain notices a distortion above the clouds, casting a spell to unveil the mystery. He's horrified to discover it's the legendary Dragon of Calamity.
The story takes us back to Noah's childhood, where his father tells him about dragon slayers. He explains that dragons who cause harm are called evil dragons, and adventurers who can defeat such creatures are known as dragon slayers. Every part of a dragon, its claws, fangs, bones, and more, is valuable. These parts can be used to craft weapons and medicine, which bring great wealth to the land. Young No eerily says he wants to become a dragon slayer too, but his father warns him that it won't be easy. Some dragons have lived for 1,000 years, and their mere movement shakes the earth. A single swing of their tails can level mountains. He also tells Noir that long ago, a dragon's rampage nearly destroyed the entire continent. Noir, despite these warnings, still dreams of becoming a dragon slayer one day. As Noir travels by carriage, he senses something in the distance, but the others don't see anything. Noir points them in the right direction, and Lin realizes it's the Dragon of Calamity. The story then shifts to the capital, where citizens are paralyzed with fear as the dragon flies overhead. Rain wonders if the Empire even understands what they've unleashed. Dalkin, observing the scene, thinks it's only been 150 years since the dragon last slumbered and that it should still be dormant. Rain then realizes that Mitra must have awakened the dragon. He is shocked that they would unleash such a catastrophe over a human conflict. As the dragon roars, Rain orders Dalkin to evacuate the city immediately, dragging out anyone who refuses to leave. As the citizens are moved out of the city, Mayan notices that the 6 sovereigns are scattered and that all the evacuation routes are blocked. She thinks the situation is hopeless. Meanwhile, the 6 sovereigns are fighting monsters both inside and outside the city, leaving them no time to deal with the dragon. The king watches the dragon from his castle, and Gilbert advises him to retreat to safety. However, the king refuses, believing it is his duty to protect the people. He asks Gilbert to lead the evacuees instead. Elsewhere, Nes looks at the dragon through binoculars, convinced that the surrounding area will be destroyed now that the dragon is here. Concerned, thinks that her father will surely stay behind, even though she knows he stands no chance against the dragon. She hopes he will run away instead. Noah, meanwhile, curiously observes the dragon, excited to finally see one in person. Rollo finds it strange that Noah is excited after just fighting the Black Dragon of Death. Noah remembers that Line's father and brother are still in town. When Lin confirms this, she mentions it's too late to save them, but Noah insists he can still save them if they act quickly. Lin is surprised by his determination, and Noah suggests they use the same tactic they did when fighting the goblins. Lin realizes he's talking about her Wind Blast spell, and although she knows the impact will be massive, Noah reassures her that he'll be fine. He believes the city has done much for him, and he wants to help in any way he can. He thinks he might be able to save Line's family if they hurry. This gives Lin hope, and she regrets almost giving up without trying. Although she knows Wind Blast isn't meant to be used on people, she decides to trust Noah's plan, realizing her master doesn't follow the usual rules of the world. Meanwhile, in the capital, the king recalls a conversation with Doritas. Doritas had told him he could easily wipe out the king's tiny nation and demanded the Dungeon of the Lost. But the king refused to hand it over, believing that Doritas was wasting a power beyond understanding. Doritas called the king a coward, unworthy of the crown. Now, the king realizes that nothing else matters to Doritas except gaining control of the Dungeon of the Lost. He regrets underestimating Doritas, never imagining he would go to such lengths to achieve it. The king goes to the top of the castle, thinking of his daughter and hoping she is safe. He is surprised that he's thinking of her instead of his country at such a critical moment. Admitting that Doritas was right, he feels unworthy of the crown. He states that he is more suited to wielding a sword and apologizes to his people for leading them into a fool's errand. Although he knows he can't make up for his mistakes, he decides to at least try to take one of the dragon's eyes. Back outside the capital, Ines creates a cylinder with her shields and asks Noah to stand in front of it. Noah complies, noting that this feels different from before. Lin then casts 7 spells on top of the barrier to amplify the power of her Wind Blast spell. Noah, now uncertain, wonders if he's really ready to be hit by such a powerful force. Point didn't notice, so she warned Noah to brace himself since the impact would be stronger than last time. She then cast her Wind Blast spell. When the dust settled, Noah was nowhere to be seen, and Rollo doubted if he could survive such an impact. Meanwhile, the dragon confronted the king, preparing to unleash its deadly breath. The prince recognized this attack as the one that once devastated the entire continent, and the king realized he wouldn't even manage to take one of the dragon's eyes. Accepting his fate, he drew a dagger, Hoping to show the dragon what human resilience could do, the 7 sovereigns noticed that the king was holding the blasting sword, pouring all his mana into it for one final strike. They also realized he was using his life force. But before the king could act, Noir appeared, parrying the dragon's face and diverting it. Everyone was shocked, and the dragon fell to the ground. The dragon, now covered in dirt, spotted Noir. It was furious that a mere human dared to stand against it. The dragon explained that the world is governed by the strong preying on the weak, and it roared, vowing not to let Noir's defiance go unpunished. It tried to strike him with its tail, but Noir parried that too, knocking the dragon down again. Noir thought he was a goner, recalling that after Lin blasted him with her spell, he blacked out for a moment. His sword had crashed into something, bringing him back to his senses. Using physical enhancement, he let the wind blast carry him, jumping over the city wall with its boost. He ended up on a collision course with the dragon and parried its breath attack to save himself. Grateful to have survived, Noir healed himself, thinking he'd ask Lin never to do that again. Surprisingly, the dragon's breath was easier to deflect than Noir expected. At first, its size had overwhelmed him, but after the shock from Lin's magic, he couldn't feel afraid anymore. The dragon got up, and Noir realized he might actually be able to fight it. Meanwhile, Lin and the others arrived in town. Ines informed Lin that they needed to get the king and flee, while Noir kept the dragon occupied. Rollo warned them of incoming rubble, and Ines barely protected them with her barrier, though they fell from their horses. Keeping the barrier up, Ines told Lin to stay behind her. Lin noticed 3 goblin emperors ahead. They were smaller than the one she and Noir had faced before, but still powerful. She wondered how to fight them and what Noir would do. Later reassured Ines that they were just goblins, and Ines agreed that compared to the Dragon of Calamity, they were nothing. They decided to stay calm and handle the goblin emperors. The monsters charged, but Lin fired ice lances at them, to no effect. Rollo then commanded the monsters to stop, giving Lin a chance to freeze them. Ines shaped her shield into a divine sword and swiftly slayed the monsters. Lin was impressed by Ines' title of Divine Sword and surprised at Rollo's power to control the monsters. Meanwhile, Noir continued parrying the dragon's attacks, which annoyed the dragon. Noir's parries damaged the dragon's supposedly indestructible claws and scales. Surprising both of them, Noir was astonished that his sword wasn't chipping, no matter how roughly he used it. He wondered what kind of sword this was, but decided it didn't matter as long as it helped him win. The dragon, now acknowledging Noir as a worthy opponent, took to the air and charged up its breath attack again. Noir deflected it, astonishing everyone, including the dragon. The dragon roared in anger. Rollo explained that it was furious because it had accepted Noir as its enemy, but Noir hadn't done the same. The king noted that dragons are prideful creatures, and the Dragon of Calamity, once confident in its power, was now. The dragon thought it was the weaker creature all along and made one final attack. Noir parried again and managed to cut off one of the dragon's claws. The dragon bowed to Noir, calming its anger. Rollo noted that this was a stance of submission, and Noir wondered what was happening. He saw the dragon's claw lying beside him and remembered his father's words about the value of dragon materials, which could be used to make weapons and medicine and bring wealth to the land. He also recalled that those who slay evil dragons are called dragon slayers, but seeing the dragon's submissive look, Noir put down his weapon, sat down, and admitted that he wasn't suited to be a hero. Rollo noticed that the dragon no longer wanted to fight. Lin and the others approached Noir. Lin was relieved to see he was still alive and asked if he was hurt. He assured her he was fine, despite just battling a dragon. Realizing what had just happened, he thanked Rollo for his help. Rollo, confused, wondered what he was talking about, while Noir thought the dragon calmed down because Rollo told it to. Rollo explained it wasn't his doing, but Noir questioned why else the dragon would suddenly become docile. He suspected Rollo's powers were responsible, but Rollo denied any involvement. Noir recalled Rollo mentioning that some people hate him for his power and figured Rollo didn't want to reveal that his abilities could even affect a dragon. Noir decided to drop the matter and asked Rollo for a favor, to send the dragon back where it came from. Ines disagreed, saying letting the beast go was a bad idea. Noir understood it might be safer to kill it, but admitted he didn't want to. He asked them to consider his request, and Lin agreed. She asked Rollo if he could do it. Rollo, unsure, said he would try to talk to the dragon politely. Noir whispered to him that it was okay to use his powers, as the girls wouldn't be afraid. Rollo hesitantly approached the dragon and used his ability to communicate. Surprised by the dragon's response, he told Nor that the dragon was willing to obey its master's orders. Nor was shocked, thinking the dragon now saw Rollo as its master, but the girls knew better. They found it hard to believe that Nor had tamed the dragon of calamity. Nor then asked Rollo to tell the dragon to return home and not harm humans again. Rollo used his powers, and the dragon agreed, flying away from the capital. As it tried to go back, a beam shot it down. Nor and the others were stunned, while Darius gloated that everything had gone according to his plan. Darius looked at the fallen dragon thus body and scoffed, saying that even a 1,000-year-old dragon was just a stupid beast before him. He surveyed the capital and found it in better condition than expected, but he decided it didn't matter and ordered his army to attack. Soon after, a soldier used teleportation magic to bring the Mithra army to the battlefield in seconds. The soldiers were heavily armed. The king was confident he would bring down the Clay's kingdom. He recalled paying a tamer to control the dragon of Karis. Once the tamer succeeded, he believed his money was well spent. His minister had then planned to use the dragon to destroy Clay's capital before their forces marched in. They planned to equip their soldiers with magic swords and shields, with elite troops using magic armor and cannons. They also had 3 Aegises, mobile mana bulwarks, and 4 ultra-high output mana ray weapons called Bryanak. A knight named Randius warned the king that this war wouldn't benefit their country in the long run, but the king ignored him. When Randius persisted, the king kicked him in the face, saying no one could threaten their empire while they led in magic technology. He added that they would show the world their power. Back in the present, Darius declared that the Clay's kingdom would be remembered as a land of fools who neglected the dungeon of the lost and were ruined by their greed. Mithra, on the other hand, would be seen as a humanitarian army that liberated the people from their foolish monarch. He decided there was no need for multiple storytellers in history and planned to wipe out everyone in the capital. Meanwhile, Nor and the others checked the spot where the dragon fell. Nor wondered if it was still alive, and Rollo suggested they take a closer look. Lin then noticed the army of Mithra, and Darius ordered his troops to advance. One soldier spotted Lin and the others through a telescope. The king noticed them too, dismissing Nor, but surprised to see the princess in Ines, the divine shield. He thought she might be why the capital hadn't been destroyed, and saw this as perfect since the era of legends was over. Now, wisdom ruled the world, and he ordered his soldiers to fire the Bryanak at them. The soldiers aimed, and the king believed the heat from the Bryanak would evaporate in Ines, despite her being the divine shield. He was thrilled at the thought of killing another legend, which is why he loved war. His soldiers reported they were ready, and at his command, they fired. The blast headed straight for Ines, and the king thought it was the end for her. However, moments before the Bryanak was fired, Ines noticed it charging up and told Lin to step back. Lin retreated with Rollo, and the blast headed for Ines, but Nor managed to parry it just in time. The king, seeing Ines and the others unharmed, was left baffled, wondering what had happened. The soldiers report a possible misfire due to a problem with the mana condensation process. The king, annoyed, orders them to prepare for the next blast. Meanwhile, Nor realizes the situation was too close and wonders about the strange light. But with the army approaching, he's more concerned about the immediate danger. Lin informs him that Dorita's troops have mobilized, estimating around 10,000 soldiers. Nor is baffled by what's happening, while Ines notes that their enemies are here to destroy the kingdom. Lin acknowledges they have an army in the capital, but it is not enough to match those numbers. Ines suggests they retreat since there's nothing they can do, and Lin agrees, planning to meet up with her brother. She asks Nor what he'll do, and he mentions there is no point in asking. He feels he has no choice but to run. Lin misinterprets his intention, and Nor wonders why she's smiling. He tries to clarify, but Derrida attacks before he can. Ines uses her divine shield to block the beams, and it holds up. The king, frustrated, is advised by a soldier to take shelter as things are getting dangerous. He agrees, retreating to the rear. As the blasts continue, Nor realizes they can't move at this rate. He decides there's only one option, to distract the army and buy time for Lin and the others to escape. He knows he does better at running than fighting and recalls how, as a child, he used to dodge bees when hunting for honey. He's confident he can manage again if he runs around like crazy. He tells Lin and the others not to do anything reckless and promises to return. Lin understands and offers him a final bit of help before leaving. She prepares to cast a spell, and Nor assumes it's a buff. But she tells him to brace for impact, and he realizes she's about to shoot him off again. Before he can protest, Lin launches him with a wind blast. The force nearly knocks him out, but he manages to stay conscious. He then notices beams coming his way and successfully parries them. More beams follow, and he deflects those too, glad his skill is working. With no choice but to charge forward, he plows through the army, parrying anyone who comes near. The king is shocked to see his soldiers' weapons flying into the sky, unable to understand what's happening. He then feels a powerful gust of wind and sees Nor behind him. Nor doesn't linger, and the soldiers, confused, notice their weapons falling back down, injuring many of their own forces. Even the Aegises are in the sky. Nor rushes past the king and his guards like a hurricane, then disappears. As the Aegises fall onto the army, Nor continues parrying anyone left with a weapon. The king is petrified and Nor stops by him again. The king gets a good look at Nor's face and realizes he saw him earlier with the princess. He can't comprehend how Nor got here so fast and does not like the way Nor is looking at him. The king wonders if Nor knows he's the king, and if he does here to kill him. Despite Nor emitting no murderous aura, the cowardly king senses danger and fears for his life. The king then remembers his orichalcum armor and sword, thinking he's ready to fight Nor, though he's shaking in his boots. But he doesn't understand that good equipment doesn't make a good fighter. Nor simply runs past him and parries the Bryanak cannon of a Klonspol. The king is bewildered to see his cannon toppled over and wonders how his army is in ruins despite their numbers, aegises, and powerful weapons. Nor reappears in front of the king, who asks who he is and why he hasn't killed him yet. The king notices Norda's weapon and realizes that this King Clace's black sword, a dungeon relic made from unknown metals, supposedly too heavy for a normal human to wield. Even King Clace needed both hands to lift it. The king is stunned to see Nor wielding it single-handedly, realizing someone has surpassed King Clace. He's still in disbelief that one man wiped out his entire army. The king concludes that Nor is sparing him only to prolong his suffering and humiliation before killing him, just as he had planned for King Clace. Overcome with fear, the king wets himself, mounts his horse, and flees, thinking that Nor is a monster. Feeling a burst of confidence, Nor exclaimed that he was going to charge ahead and parry everything in his path. However, he quickly stopped himself, noticing something strange. In front of him stood an old man clad in gleaming golden armor, holding a similarly dazzling sword. Even the horse the man rode was outfitted with equally ornate golden gear. Nor was puzzled. Why would someone be standing around in such an eye-catching outfit in the middle of a battle? To Nor, the man seemed like an old-timer out of place, but there wasn't time to dwell on it. Realizing the imminent danger, Nor reminded himself that he couldn't afford to be distracted. If the soldiers surrounding him gathered their weapons and attacked all at once, he wouldn't stand a chance. Focusing on parrying their swords and shields, he pressed forward, unsure of what was happening but determined to keep fighting. Despite the urgency of the situation, Nor's curiosity lingered. He couldn't help but wonder why the old man was in the midst of such chaos. Suddenly, the man, who was revealed to be the emperor, muttered angrily, mentioning someone he referred to as that bastard. Nor snapped back to reality. He knew he couldn't just stand there and let the soldiers recover their weapons. Reminding himself to breathe to avoid passing out from the stress of battle, he refocused. The emperor, now angry, glared at Nor and claimed he had seen him somewhere before. Nor wondered if this golden armored figure really recognized him, though he couldn't recall meeting him in the past. The emperor drew his sword to fight Nor, but Nor saw no reason to parry. He was too focused on his mission to be distracted by the emperor's threats. His only concern was eliminating the enemy's forces. After a moment, Nor became concerned for the old man's safety, thinking he would surely get hurt if he stayed there much longer. Suddenly, the emperor, visibly shaken, shouted, "Whoa, who the hell are you? Why haven't you killed me yet?" It dawned on Nor that the emperor believed he was there to take his life. Though the situation was odd, Nor couldn't blame him for making such an assumption. The emperor was clearly terrified of Nor's black weapon. Sensing his fear, Nor tried to reassure him by smiling warmly, hoping to calm the emperor down, but he wasn't sure if it was working. Without warning, the emperor turned and fled, clearly misunderstanding Nor's intentions. Just then, Nor's body began to falter. Overcome with exhaustion, he realized he had pushed himself too hard. He wondered why even his low heel skill wasn't enough to restore his strength. Blood filled his throat, and as he coughed, his thoughts drifted to his companions. At that moment, he saw a rain of arrows falling from the sky. He recognized the skill as Mian's work. Another skill, Dragrave, was used to slay the soldiers approaching Nor. It was none other than Gilbert. Nor wondered if they had come to help him. Just then, Sig arrived. Sig didn't know who Noor was, but he thanked him nonetheless. Sig and his team were prepared for what lay ahead, confident in their abilities. Sig assured Noor that they would handle the rest of the mission, especially the cleanup, as protecting the honor of the 6th Troop of the Royal Capital was crucial. Noor looked on in awe, impressed by the immense power displayed. He recognized it as the very skill of the swordsman he had always aspired to become. Oken, however, was less impressed. He sighed, recalling how he had warned against unnecessary bloodshed, but it seemed his advice had gone unheeded. With a wry grin, Sane commented on the overwhelming odds they faced, pointing out that dead soldiers wouldn't provide the information they needed. Capturing enemies alive would be much more useful. With dark humor, he joked that healing magic could easily restore missing limbs over and over again. He quickly added that it was just a joke. Oken, unfazed, responded that it didn't sound much like a joke coming from Sane. With a more serious tone, Sane reminded Oken that their enemies would be arriving soon, urging him to be prepared. Oken, now ready for action, replied with determination. They had been outplayed by the enemy for too long, and now it was his time to take the spotlight. Oken summoned a group of wizards and used his magic to bind the soldiers. Dindalg then led many more soldiers toward the bound enemies. One of the instructors recognized Noor, who had defeated them before. Lin quickly healed Noor, and he thanked her. Noor stood up, stretching his body as he felt his strength return. He said he was feeling much better and was relieved to be back on his feet. Lin, still worried, asked if he was really okay. Noor reassured her that he had rested enough and could move again, though he admitted he was quite hungry. Sig joined the conversation and reported that, under Sane's questioning, a commanding officer had revealed that there were no more enemy troops left. The enemy had used all their resources, including the dragon and the beast that had attacked the capital. However, Sig added that the Emperor had managed to escape. Oken was surprised. The Emperor? That old man actually showed up on the battlefield. Sig confirmed it, and Oken scoffed, saying the Emperor must have been confident in his resources. He sarcastically commented that it was a foolish move for someone who called himself a wise ruler, suggesting the Emperor might be losing his grip on reality. Noor, recalling the strange encounter earlier, asked if they were talking about the old man he had seen. Oken, intrigued, asked if Noor knew who they were referring to. Noor explained that he had met the Emperor a short time ago. The Emperor had been riding a horse with golden gear, making him hard to miss. Oken guessed that the Emperor might have been using Orwykal constabulary and expensive and powerful equipment. This could explain how the Emperor escaped so quickly. Oken also criticized the Emperor's taste, mocking his extravagant golden attire. Oken then mentioned that if the Emperor had escaped toward the border, there would be no way to catch him because of the fortress and the bridge over the ravine. He lamented that there was no hope of reaching the Emperor using normal means and wished for a way to fly. Noor suggested that flying might be possible. Oken, surprised, asked what he meant. Noor, uncertain, said it could be an option if the dragon was still alive. Oken gazed in awe at the majestic dragon, his eyes sparkling with wonder as he admired the legendary creature up close. His voice showed his excitement and joy at seeing such a rare sight. Standing beside him, Sane adjusted his stance, showing a hint of pride as he acknowledged the challenge of healing such a massive beast. He looked at Noor with a warm, nostalgic smile, noting how much Noor had grown since their last meeting. Oken's face lit up with surprise as he realized the man before him was Noor. His eyebrows shot up, and he took a step back, clearly amazed. Noor, smiling ruefully, acknowledged the time that had passed, while Oken's light-hearted response, filled with humor, showed his astonishment at Noor's changed appearance and enduring spirit. Sane added that even though Noor was familiar, Rollo's confidence in handling the dragon was questionable. Rollo, visibly nervous, admitted he was unsure with a shaky voice, which made Oken react with amusement. The tension in the air was palpable as Noor tried to reassure them. The dragon's powerful roar echoed through the space, hinting at its readiness and possible irritation. Noor, mixing reassurance with humor, tried to calm everyone's growing anxiety. Rollo translated the dragon's mood, revealing its desire for revenge and its order to find the old man. Oken's eyes widened with amazement at the dragon's control, his excitement and admiration clear. Noor, recognizing Rollo's impressive abilities, prepared for the dragon's departure. The group, including Lin and Inz, got ready for the ride. Lin's practical response and her decision to guard Rollo emphasized the seriousness of the situation. Noor, despite his fear of heights, reluctantly agreed to join the adventure. Sane, looking serious and determined, spoke up. He said he was committed to helping the group, explaining his role in caring for his patient and using his diplomatic skills. Karoo, standing nearby with a skeptical look, crossed his arms and rolled his eyes, annoyed by being included in Sane's responsibilities. Noor, surprised and curious, turned to Karoo, recognizing him as the thief-class instructor. His voice showed both intrigue and disbelief. Karoo nodded and explained that his concealment skill was necessary for their journey. Noor nodded in agreement, relieved by the explanation. Oken, seeming reluctant but determined, offered his help. He sighed and crossed his arms, ready to assist despite his initial hesitation. Sane, with a mild look of exasperation, reminded Oken of his duty to supervise the stone cage. Oken nodded in resignation, acknowledging the reminder. Rain stepped forward, thoughtfully volunteering to join the mission. Noting the need for a negotiator, Lin's face brightened with joy and relief as she expressed her gratitude for her family's safety. Clay smiled back warmly, reassuring her that they were safe. Rain then spoke to Inez about her decision to return instead of going to Mithra. Inez, standing tall and composed, admitted she had disobeyed orders and apologized earnestly. Rain, with regret, admitted his mistake in giving the order and assigned Inez the task of making judgment calls. He also apologized to Noor for his repeated requests and entrusted him with the care of the group. Noor, smiling confidently, agreed to take on the responsibility. Clays nodded firmly, showing his trust in Noor. Rollo then gave a decisive command to the dragon, signaling the start of their journey. Dindalg, looking concerned, questioned the decision and felt uneasy about Noor's involvement. Sig, reflecting on their past efforts with a solemn expression, admitted his past mistakes and feelings of inadequacy. His tone showed a mix of regret and resolve as he vowed to improve. Dindalg, noting Sig's seemingly upbeat demeanor despite his self-criticism, commented with a hint of amusement. Sig, with a wry smile, agreed with Dindalg and acknowledged the impressive display they had witnessed.